Welcome to Newlywed Day. Woo! So there's a lot of you. Some of you may actually already be married and maybe you're doing things in reverse and you're kind of coming back and trying to prepare. That's awesome. Or maybe you're even already married and you're just doing a refresher. That's okay. The newlywed phase of your marriage is a super fun one. If you haven't lived together, you're kind of building your home together and decorating. You're figuring out, does your spouse squeeze the bottom of the toothpaste bottle from the bottom as directed? Or is she more of a middle squeezer, leave the top off on the counter and let it spill over onto the counter?
Are you trying to send me a message?
No, not at all. Either way, you're going to get to learn and experience the idiosyncrasies of your spouse. And this is a fun time, right? We're going to leverage all of the things we've talked about and you've learned so far around loving and being patient, conflict resolution, a little bit of that perhaps. Let us tee you up for some of the common challenges and opportunities you have in this phase of your marriage. So in this newlywed stage of your marriage, we want you to be very aware and thinking about all of the things you're doing are really setting the foundation and the patterns and rhythms you're going to have in your marriage. So it's easy to be, bubbly and living in the moment and be carefree, which is great. We want you to enjoy that part of it, but we also want you to be aware and thinking through setting the proper foundation and patterns, and one of those areas is going to be sex. Some of you maybe got married faster than you were planning on because you're looking forward to the stage of your relationship, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? God designed sex as a beautiful and amazing thing for you as a couple in marriage. And so what we want you to be thinking about as it relates to sex in the beginning of your marriage is, one, is to show a lot of grace for yourself and your spouse. Particularly if you have waited to have sex until you're married, it's going to be very foreign, and you're going to have perhaps, depending on how you're raised, you're going to have reservations about your sexuality. So it's important that we're loving one another and that we're communicating about sex. So, there's a lot of things our culture says, depending on the rap song or the television show, it does not go all night. So again, we encourage you to talk about, enjoy it, make mistakes. You have your whole marriage to perfect it. And it is going to get better and better and better. And we promise you, if you continue to talk about the basics, right? That didn't work for me. This feels good. Don't do that. Do this. Stay there. Do it longer. Do it shorter. Whatever the directions are, just communicate in love and grace. And that aspect of your marriage will thrive and grow. And it'll be very key to you developing and maintaining intimacy in your marriage. So another really important part of your marriage at this stage of things is in the newlywed phase is continuing to cultivate your friendship. So we talked about in prior sessions, your wife should ideally be your best friend. We want to pour into, or your husband, we want to pour into that and do the things, invest the time, invest the money, invest all the resources you have to continue to build upon that. And, sometimes some aspects of becoming a best friend with your spouse is getting away from your spouse.
Getting away from your spouse.
And not putting the burden of everything on him or her is my point there. Yeah. It's not to be away from him all the time, but that balance of creating, missing your spouse and developing, same-sex friendships and interests that allows you to have this rhythm and dance where I'm going away and I'm coming together and I'm cherishing that time together is good and healthy.
So is that absence makes the heart grow fonder?
Yes, that's the one. I couldn't remember it. We want to find those things because there can be this unhealthy, and we've seen this in relationships where one of you, maybe because of you haven't invested in same-sex friendships and things, you're expecting your spouse to meet every need you have in your life. And it can start to feel or be overwhelming for that person. So we want to be aware of that. Now, this isn't anything that's a deal breaker, but this is something you should be aware of. And if one of you is feeling that you should talk about it. Again, we're communicating in truth, love, and grace. So all of those elements of I love you, I want to spend time with you, I would like to help you, and it might be good for you to invest in same-sex friends or other activities just to help round you out as an individual. I mean, what do you think about that? Does that make sense to you or?
Absolutely. I think there's great independence that's achieved through having outside friends and outside times spent away from each other. It's not something that I'm looking forward to spending time from you. It's that I have other things that I would like to do. And whether that's time with the girls or working out in my Pilates class, which is something that you wouldn't want to do. It's just time away also makes me excited to see you. And I think that's the point that you were trying to make, is that you can't fulfill all of my needs all of the time. And I think when we do have our separate interests, it just makes us more excited to be together when we are together.
Yeah. And one of the things I enjoy about that too, is we have other things to talk about.
Yeah.
We're talking about experiences that not everything's together. And related to that, another area to be thinking about in your relationship at this stage is your friend network. The people you are spending time with, either individually or as a couple, those are people that either kind of pour into you and make you stronger and closer to God, or we have, it's normal and actually healthy that you can have friends that are not necessarily there. Maybe you're pouring into their lives. Maybe you're being a light to them in where they're at, and that's okay. But it's very, very important that we are aware and thoughtful of, we have a capacity to give and receive. God fills us, and some people also fill us, and some people drain us. And so we want to make sure that with God and with our friendships, that we are not having a person or people in our lives that drain us too far, that drain us to the point where we're not being godly to our spouse or the people around us, or we get drained so far that we start to become vulnerable to moving away from God in general. So definitely something, again, you as a couple can talk about, and maybe it helps to discuss and have another set of eyes on the friendships and relationships we have in our lives, because some they can be damaging. All right, so we have another, everything can't be the most important, but this is very important, like everything else we've talked about. So hang with us. When you're in the newlywed phase of your relationship, this is something I have to be very conscientious of, and that is, I'm over prioritizing harmony and avoiding conflict for speaking truth in love. And so I will, not say things because I don't want to instigate anything because we're getting along great. Why would I ruin that moment?
We're in the honeymoon phase.
Yeah, the honeymoon phase, right? Who doesn't want to preserve that and not mess with the flow of things? But this is the time to practice those things. And if you're both sitting there watching this, think about it and know that when you're speaking truth in love and grace, that we're doing it because we want to have a better relationship. We're not doing it to be critical. So again, you can't do the truth without the other parts, because you can say very, very mean and hurtful things that are true. And so this has to be rooted with love and grace, but we can communicate those things and practice them now. This is about what we're talking about, setting the patterns and foundation now. Begin to practice these things now. Find little things and talk about them that you want to say, that you think your spouse may not want to hear, and say, I want to practice with you. I want to talk about this, and go through that exercise and hone it, because if you can talk about the little things, you'll be able to talk about the medium-sized things and the big things. And a lot of times, if you can talk about the little things, you don't have the medium or big things, because things are being covered and processed in the stream of your relationship. What do you think about that?
I think that's so important, but I think it's also important to be able to receive those things as well. Like, you need to practice receiving them, because I think if you're just the one dishing out all of the issues that are going on, even the smallest ones, if you're not good at also receiving that, there is going to be conflict there as well. So if you're going to give me something that's bothering you, like, hey, you left the laundry in the dryer, now we kind of need to re-dry it, and I get upset or defensive, it's kind of not really helping the situation. So when you give that to me and I receive it with love and grace, like, oh, I'm sorry, I did forget about that. I'm going to work on that, or I'll do that, the next time. I think that is a huge part of the back and forth that needs to happen with giving and receiving these little details that could blow up, 3 months down the road into something bigger.
Yeah. And that is the worst thing that's ever happened in our relationship, is the dryer. But we got through it. Yeah.
We're working on it daily.
No, but that is a great example, because we have, we've had those issues where, I'll bring something up and you react and we talk about it. And what we realize in most cases, that we're really not even reacting to each other. We're reacting to a prior experience and baggage. So that's the beauty of practicing these things. It's not that you're not going to have conflict, and it might not be pleasurable for moments and you go through it, but it will get better and easier. And you are going to feel great victory in your relationship, and it's going to build confidence and the sense of trust and safety. Because when you ask your spouse a question and the answer doesn't want to feel like you're getting the real answer.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you over prioritize harmony and not having conflict, you start to doubt that. And that can have negative consequences throughout your relationship. So yeah, please lean into that and practice that. And we promise you good things will come out of that. So cherishing and respecting your spouse is another great thing to be cognizant of and to be practicing and to be intentional about, because we as we went through the love and respect session a few weeks ago, you hopefully recall the importance of that. We want to continue to pour into that. We don't want that to get stale and stagnant. And so we're going to talk about in one of the upcoming sessions of how those things can get stale. So we want you to be thinking about that. What are the ways, and we've had you do various exercises. What are the things that I do that make my wife feel loved? And what are the things that Pamela does that makes me feel respected? And we want to refresh our memory on those and practice those, put those into reality through our actions and our words, and good things will happen. And that reminds me of, we've been on a journey to find the right bed, to find a mattress that makes us both happy. How's that going?
We are on our 4th return right now, but we are still at it. We are trying to find one soft enough for me and firm enough for you. And it has been an ongoing struggle.
A tale of many mattresses.
Or the Princess and the Pea.
Yes, one of those. But we had a mattress that I liked and her back was hurting. So then we go and we're like, we'll find a bed. We go in. I'm like, just lay on any bed, whatever you like. We're going to get that. We get that bed. Then my back starts hurting. So then we got split beds, and then they're the wrong beds. And now both our backs are hurting. But at the end of the day, we love each other and we cherish each other. And the hardships that you face, the back pain that you face, the pains in your relationship, they're going to be okay. And if you do these things, I promise you that you will look at your wife and with confidence say and receive that I will be with you till the end of the days. And as it relates to being with your spouse and protecting that special marriage you have, we want to remind you about hedges, right? We want to continue to define, build, refine, tweak, whatever we need to do to protect our marriage. And in the common areas that you'll face in this stage of your marriage are going to be related to finances. Are we operating in unity as it relates to how we spend, how we save, how we view and treat money, your friendships, and also your family relationships. So keep working on those things. So we'll send you off into the material, and we have a fun exercise where you'll work with your spouse to do a little vision building of what the future may look like for you and get in alignment there. And we will see you next time when we get into the career building phase of your marriage.